like during DP, I remember it's like the first year of architecture and just see the sun rising, and that was like the first time you see the sun rising when you're not in your own bed.
I always remember when we finished DP and then all the TAs came in with beer and then we went to like go to Wild Colonial with Olga.
The kind of getting either blackout drunk or partying after a review is a really like positive memory consistently.
Always worth it. Worth the blackout.
Or, celebrating.
Not the crit. Yeah.
I think the best memories are every time we finish the project.
Yeah. That one day where everyone's
that like one day out of the whole year. Yeah.
Like the first 2 years when we actually built the models and then we stepped on it at the end of the final.
That was
good.
I don't exactly have a favorite memory of architecture, but I can say that favorite aspect of architecture would just be talking a ton with professors and whatnot.
Just the idea of like struggling with someone who's right beside you. I just felt like we really came together because we were all trying to struggle for the same thing, and it's that like kind of weird relationship that I really like.
I really enjoyed the studio with you guys, the Climate Change Museum, because that was the first time I really do sort of group works. I think working with a group, you actually know each other better. Also, like you can benefit from like each other's sort of strength. That I think is quite different from the other studios I took, and I like that. I enjoy it.
favorite memory, so like a positive one. RISD, obviously.
I think it'll have to be the times when you're in studio and you think you're just going to lose it, and then you see people next to you almost about to lose it too, and then, I don't know, a sense of community would be my answer.
Actually, sophomore year, at our last review for making a design principles, Pierre Taguri came up to me afterwards and he said, like, you have really great work, you're a really talented person. Like, he was just very encouraging, and I was just like, oh wow, that's a nice thing to say. He didn't have to do that.
I mean, in general, I guess, like, kind of the best moments in architecture are, like, kind of the spontaneous moments where we all, like, you know, like, for example, yesterday we were just chilling in studio and someone's like, bar? And then everyone was like, yeah, bar. And it was like 5 p.m. And so we all just, like, went to the bar, and it was just, like, one beer turned into 4, and then all of a sudden I came back to studio at 7 and I was drunk. And
we had, like, a 2-week hand drawing project, right? And it was me and Connie sitting next to each other, and there was this time about, like, 4 a.m. probably, and I just kind of started, like, humming while drawing, and then I started, like, humming in the order in which I'm drawing those lines. So, like, every line I draw and the length of the line I draw is directly proportionate to, like, the length of the tone or the sound I make. And then Connie starts doing the same thing, and the next thing you know, we had this, like, improvisational song going on, and I'll never forget doing that, but at the same time I don't remember how it sounded to other people. I'm sure Connie doesn't remember this. It was a pretty good experience.
So with Nathan's class, it was like we haven't slept in a while, or like it was really late, we were working really hard, and so we called, it was me, Christy Hansen, Andrew, I don't know who else. We ordered Domino's, I think, because it's obviously Christy's favorite. We started laughing, like, all of us super hard, and then Christy's totally gonna hate me on this, but then Christy just let out a fart like in the middle of her laughing, and it just went silent for like a split second because everyone had to recollect what happened, and then everyone just like bursted out laughing. And I think there's even a picture to prove that this happened, and it was just so funny. Yeah, it was definitely like my fondest memory. It's always like late nights, eating pizza, something happens.
I guess my favorite would have to go back to how it all began. So I remember we would have this thing called Rhino Nights, and it would be 5 of us, and we would just do Rhino together in one room in Hansen's living room. But I remember so distinctly one night close to the final that even though there's 5 of us and we're all doing our own thing, and we would, instead of talk to each other, we were talking at each other. Like, maybe I would say, oh my god, this Boolean failed, or it's just not working, and then someone else, like Raksha, would be like, oh, hey guys, it's not splitting, and then this, like, Connie would be like, wait, what? Like, my rhino's crashing, or, you know, and it's just something that just doesn't, it's not an actual conversation, but it was just nice that we're all doing it together and we're all in the same boat.
All the late nights we spent up doing rhino and not saving and then crashing. The amounts of food we had at rhino nights. All the late nights. Every moment of it.
The bonfire we had last year and this year, both of the years.
I guess my favorite moment in architecture, like in a studio, would be my first class with Gabriel, right? So I had him for urban, and this one class in particular, the one that I'll always remember, is this one day he brought us in after we designed our facades, right? And he made us sing the facades, which, if you haven't had him before, sounds absolutely ridiculous, and you sound absolutely ridiculous, but after doing it, it's very eye-opening to what it shows you about, you know, your own drawings.
I wasn't even in that class, but I just watched the videos of Gabrielle asking that and Andrew just like saying, do, 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 do. You know, I think that was it.
There's also just so many memories of long nights here, you know, and that's also so important at the same time.
I was gonna say Beaux-Arts, because it's like fresh in my mind, like that was pretty wild, but I think anytime, like, as a department, collectively, we are all together outside of studio. So sophomore year, spring, the grads threw a party down on Hope and Doyle. I was just so in like such like a safe, happy environment that I remember waking up that morning like in a lot of pain, but like thinking like, damn, like I love my department.
Teachers don't really have catchphrases, right?
The one that was at least most imitating would be Gabrielle's use of the term, "it seems to me," which isn't really a catchphrase, but it's more his way of wording everything, because everything he says seems to him something.
This was actually like the second class of urban. He brought us in and he sat us down and he's like, okay guys, I'm gonna go around the class and do a very simple experiment, right? So he'd point into like a room we designed or something and be like, what would happen if I had sex here, right? And so obviously, because none of us had done an urban plan before, we all put housing units in the ground floor, right? And so his point was, you don't do that because you can see into the window, right? But of course he does it in his own way. So he went around everyone's project and pointed in rooms and was like, what happens if I have sex here?
In which? That's my phrase.
Probably like a Gabrielle.
So this one is for Gabrielle Feld. He walked to my desk one day and said, everybody gather around. Prax is watching too much pornography with 3 people. So he picks up one of my sketch models. There is nothing that these 3 connections are doing that 2 cannot do on their own.
Olga. And it's like every time after she says something, she'll have to say, do you know what I mean? And like for the most part, you want to say no, because you don't. Because if she's asking it, you definitely don't. But then every time you just say, yeah.
Chris Bart saying, let the drawing be what it wants to be, or let the drawing tell you what it wants to be, which I think I know what it means now, but at that time you were like,
Make it orgasmic. I won't reveal names, but that one stuck with me.
Analysis, I had Hansi, of course, and we go through the presentations, it's pretty awesome, and then she's like, you see what the one thing that unites all these drawings is the fact that they're orgasmic. I would like you to have orgasmic drawings that make you want them when you see them. And I was like, this woman is crazy, like, this is ridiculous. I don't know what she's talking about, but a few years later, like, that is one of those things that I would like to have in all my drawings, or at least incite in some fashion.
Oh my gosh. This is beautiful. From a D.
A D, duh. Something beautiful is about to happen. But he never told us what it was till the end of the semester, and I still think sometimes I don't even know what that was, so.
Most memorable catchphrase, just because the professor had to say this for every project, every single created in every single student was a beautiful moment. So he found beautiful moments in almost everything.
I really don't know this. I don't remember what teachers say, like in quote form.
Maybe I don't have a phrase, but I do have a movement.
Who is that?
That's Jason.
John's, when he would tell someone, you know, like, what are you doing? Like, this is so simple. You like move your pieces around and then you go, boom, done.
Next.
Yeah.
Next. That's actually, I was gonna say John as well. With the next and with the, and he's like, nope. I'm like, that's not it. It's like, just give it to him straight. Gotta love John's verses.
And he was like, basically like moving stuff around for my ArcD and like basically resolving my project. And I was like, oh my God, Jonathan, thank you so much. He was like, that's why I make the big bucks around here. I was like,
I overheard Peter talking to his thesis group last year, and he was saying like, the power in what you do is not in something grand or something huge. It's actually just changing, fundamentally changing something in your everyday sense.
What Anne actually said during, like, I think urban design was that she was like, sometimes the smallest intervention can make the biggest difference, and that sort of stuck with me.
Sylvia Costa, she said, apples to apples. I think she's trying to mean like if you're trying to, for example, if you're drawing a stair, it should really act like a stair. I don't know.
Okay.
The one I'm currently working on.
Most brutal assignment was probably the first architecture project ever in DP, because I went in not knowing or understanding anything about architecture, and then when told to translate a dance to a piece of architecture, that's just unimaginable. It's not possible.
DP for me, definitely did not know what I was doing at all. And
Like design principles, not degree projects.
Yeah. Oh yeah, design principles. Oh thank God, if I don't know what I'm doing for a degree project, that's a whole other game.
I will say DP.
What was that project? The string project? It was the line project from DP. Yeah, that was.
I would say, yeah,
It just made no sense completely until now I look back and it's just like, did it really help me?
I think it would have to be DP because we didn't know where we were, what we were doing, but also IBS was pretty intense. Totally out of my comfort zone. Didn't like that class at all.
This is either between arc analysis sophomore year, when she wanted a minimum of 20 hours for a drawing that was a secondary studio to my 6 credit studio. I wasn't too happy about that. Or honestly, this past freaking IBS, that first model iteration when we stayed all night, like freaking blocking foam on that model, that was brutal. I was not happy that night. So those were some 2 pretty rough ones.
Gotta say, my first all-nighter I pulled for my RISD career actually was for Pari, sophomore year. And yeah, Jesus Christ, if it wasn't for Dane, who, he unfortunately won't see this because he graduated last year, but yeah, I was sitting in the shop at like 2 a.m. and like, I had nothing. And then he came in and he like helped me CNC everything together. And so that was my first all-nighter, thanks to him I was able to pull it off.
Well, that's tough because I don't know if that's depending on like the amount of work and then also getting a bad crit, because it feels more brutal if afterwards it also feels like you still didn't complete it. So in a lot of ways, a lot of art design was brutal for me that way.
I would say like Art D in general. Like, I don't think there's an assignment specifically, but Art D was just like a very confusing class.
Design principles was pretty brutal because kind of the fundamental way of, like, the fundamental process involved iterating, failing repeatedly, and just making or doing it. And for me, it's like a few weeks before the final crit was when I had no idea what was going on, and there was just so much stuff in the studio. Like, do you remember you couldn't even walk through those studios? And that's probably why I thought it was brutal, because they just required us to make kilograms of stuff.
well, 2 classes. One was architectural projections with Chris. I mean, he's an awesome guy, but having him as the first architecture teacher was a pain. It was so bad. I think that whole class was just brutal. And IBS, obviously. I mean, at least I kind of knew what I was doing in IBS, but it was just like a lot of work, you know.
I think projection, I also have Chris Bard, and we never understand his assignment. Every time after the assignment, we just look at each other and say, what the hell's going on and what should we do? And we ask the TA, and TA basically explained everything, but it was a time to feel like, oh God, am I too stupid to understand what he means? Is it like I'm not intelligent enough, or it's lots of self-questioning.
That ridiculous thing in projections where we had to like make a measuring machine using a non-numerical system and then put it in Rhino.
I literally did not understand what they were asking me to do.
Like anything you proposed to do was against the rules. I actually stole your technique. You were using Prax, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty smart. Prax, are you gonna do this? And you're like, no, this is useless. And I stole your technique, and Chris is like, sorry, this is really good. We should keep pushing this. Like,
projections was probably the most like work intensive because it was, you know, they throw Rhino at you and at Chris Bard, and he was just basically like, I don't really care if you guys sleep, just get it done.
Recently Chris asked us to do rubbings, and he asked us to do like hundreds of them. and somebody was like, you know, when are we supposed to go and rub? And he said, it doesn't matter. And we were like, what the fuck? And then he's like, you're gonna get bored doing this. I know you're gonna get bored. Just notice that you're bored and keep rubbing things.
Oh, drawing Grandchamp. Without plans, without sections.
For me, it was the one before that where we had to like make a measuring machine and then like learn Rhino from scratch, basically.
Yeah, projecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know about you, but I didn't know shit when we were doing Grandchamp.
Classic Chris. I like that Chris is the recurring theme so far. It's pretty good.
Under Sylvia Costa's lesson, she was very tough, but I think that was like the semester that I learned the most because I got shouted from Sylvia Costa. And I mean, it was a really good experience.
Oh, all of UDP, all of urban design principles, I would say was most brutal. I had Sylvia Costa. She whooped our ass. I loved Sylvia though. Sylvia was awesome. She definitely taught me a ton. But man, like that was like the most all-nighters I'd ever pulled.
So many.
Everything in Rochelle's class.
Urban is pretty brutal. To make a film in one night, that's pretty brutal.
Oh god. This IBS, because it was in combination with not a very good group. We were very disorganized. Oh, we just didn't put the effort in. That was the worst, because it was week after week, building off what we had or didn't have the last week. That was the worst. That was awful.
Well, I think that's pretty obvious, right? I mean, all of you guys and our trips, and yeah, just like being able to come up here and see people, you know, just seeing that I'm not really alone, suffering by myself, kind of. Yeah.
Definitely the people, you know, that's what makes RISD what it is. It's not like we have particularly good facilities or anything, you know, it's the staff and the people here that makes RISD what it is.
Well, obviously I miss people here, and these 5 years, I think will probably be the most, not to say happiest year, but the carefree years, or the last carefree period of my life.
Just everyone being cramped, literally butt to butt, you know, next to each other. You're never gonna get that anywhere else. It's really this.
Definitely the studio environment.
Access to seeing really cool new projects every week in person.
I think I'm gonna miss the studio culture. Like, there's nothing like it. There's nothing I've seen in my life where there's just a bunch of tons of people devoted to a very similar cause in close proximity to each other, and not in the way other disciplines do it, not in the way in which you have hundreds of people in a library, not in the form of like a seminar in a class. It's not a group work, you know, there's like collaboration, peer review and things like that don't come freely to other disciplines. It's almost like a enforced thing, and here it's almost like sometimes you're doling out advice when no one asked, and that's useful to them and you, and sometimes it's the other way around where you're actually like you're hoping that what you see on your peer's desk will somehow inform what you make or do.
Honestly, the people, I think the fact that like we're all collectively in studio together, suffering together, like, and the support system I think is something that we have that's really unique, and I'm really gonna miss it.
This.
Oh, yeah.
All of you.
Community.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Being all-nighters with all of, or like someone that will keep up with the way we think now. You know, like
Someone to share your frustrations.
Exactly. I feel like when I get out of here, people just think I'm
kind of
crazy. Yeah.
I don't think you ever get this kind of like community again. You know.
I think it's a community forged by fire, so it's definitely something that everyone can relate to. So the conversations kind of roll off.
Misery loves company. Is that what you're trying to say?
Misery loves company, so it's just easy to relate to others, and it's just
Just the positive, welcoming environment that you can be whoever you want to be and have so many talented people close to you that are going through the same thing, and just you can help each other.
Learning, I suppose, like being in architecture does cause us to think about a lot of things that once within actual adult life we won't ever think about, like spatiality and inhabitants and all these things.
The shock, like to be so accessible to everything. I'm already missing half of my friend who already graduated, and then probably will miss more after graduation.
Yeah, I will miss everyone here.
These idiots.
Yeah.
The people, Rakshan especially.
I think the people, obviously, right? I don't know, just generally the BEB, the crappy floors, the nights we spent here.
My friends. The BB. I'll miss the BB a lot. I don't know, it's like a third or seventh, eighth home.
A kind of fucked up way. I'm gonna miss waking up and coming to studio, and basically that's all.
Just people, studio. Definitely not this. I want to say I won't miss this building, but I definitely will miss this building a little bit because it's like kind of like this building has contained like all these like emotions.
I mean, in a lot of ways, this is an incredibly beautiful experience because we get up in the morning, we imagine things, we make drawings, and then we prepare for like half an hour with 7 brilliant people to root around inside your head to figure out what's going on. And that doesn't happen anywhere else. I miss that.
I have aspirations of doing what a lot of teachers here do actually, which is teach part-time and practice part-time. And I think there's so much that can be learned in both fields.
Assistant professor at RISD.
Well, I would love to, part-time teach and part-time practice and really be social in my work, I guess. Personally, I guess just happy, just happy and peaceful.
Hopefully the West Coast. 10 years means hopefully an architect.
I see myself happy and content with whatever I'm doing.
I really want to have a vineyard in Italy or France, and then drinking wine and making cheese.
I don't know if I could actually answer that question, then architecture school didn't really do me enough justice, because after even architecture school, a lot more doors opened up than I would have expected. I assumed I'd just be an architect, but I seem to be moving further and further away from that.
Probably not an architect. Is that okay to say on camera? Probably not an architect. Definitely in the design field. Definitely in a city that I've never lived before. Definitely with a dog. Hopefully with Trevor. Can you hear me?
Ideally working somewhere at the intersection of design and technology, and having at least lived in 2 or 3 different places by then. I probably will have a pet dog. I think I can take care of one by then.
I hope employed. That would be nice.
That's a hard question. I mean, if I asked myself that 10 years ago, I would say, like nothing even close to this, so who's to say?
Killing it. Doing something in the design field, not necessarily architecture. Making moolah.
Oh, this is easy. I see myself in an architecture firm in Australia that's right on the beach. Everyone's barefoot. There are hammocks where you can do your drafting in. And we work on like carnivals and aerospace stuff. That would be the best.
I see myself on my own, working on my own practice, on projects that feel real and authentic, questioning what makes them work as architecture.
I see myself more in the social realm of architecture, so I'm planning to build a lot of schools, I'm planning to build a lot of hospitals, a lot of civic halls that really have a huge impact on a kind of area that needs architecture the most, I believe. Providing good architecture for people that necessarily don't have access to it.
I think mine is similar, but in the fact that I don't want to start my own firm, but I do want to be part of a firm that I believe in what they do and what they strive for, what they stand for.
Ideally, I really want to have my own practice, but at the same time realize it's very difficult. But I think there's no other way I can, or people can actually how to say, make their ideas or practice their concept other than having their own practice. So I'll say that's a dream.
Also being a very successful marriage. I feel like in architecture, that's a super rare thing, so I'm gonna try to confront that.
In terms of mind and life and work and all that, just stable. Hopefully, I see myself giving back to the community, or like impacting those beyond just my inner circle, but also the greater people at large too, hopefully.
I think I'm gonna be a CEO in one of the companies that I would create, or maybe a co-founder, I think.
I see myself having a margarita with Melly on the beach.
Hopefully I'll be having my own company. And kids.
By 33, my own stuff. Being able to take vacations whenever I want to. Having started my family.
I'll just be so stressed all the time with the amount of work that we're getting at my office. So.
Oh my god.
Oh man, 10 years from now, I hope I'm not like, married with a house, with good credit, with a minivan, with kids, with a good high-paying, like, over $100,000 job. I hope I'm not in that situation, to be honest. I kind of honestly hope I'm somewhere kicking it, doing something I love. As long as I'm doing something fun and I'm like able to like be to a certain extent responsible and definitely independent, I'd be stoked.
That implies like a singular time, so that's kind of tough.
Every day. No, really though. I mean, I guess, yeah, from freshman year to the end of IBS, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
There were 3 times actually. One of them was during Urban with Gabrielle, and I was staying up all night to make a stupid animation, a building animation where we had to, one frame, put in the columns, put in these sets of columns, now put the slab. I wanted to just be done with it. Everything. Second one was also during IBS, when one of the last nights, and I was just working at 6 a.m. and I was like sweating cold sweat. My body was like shivering, and I looked out the window and I see the sun up, and I'm like, what am I doing? This is not what I want to do. And the sad part was that my mom would come to visit me for that weekend, and she was like in the hotel, and I got a text at 5:30. She's like, are you still working? And I'm like, yes, Mom, I am. And then the third one, just recently, when I saw a video of these master potters and just working, and it's so poetic, and I was just like, I want to do that. I just want to give all this shit up and just go do that. Just throw pottery.
Every year between February and April, when I always think winter is ending and it never ends, and it just snows over and over again. That's when I want to quit and just live on a tropical island. Every single day during sophomore year.
There was one time where I like called my mom and I was like, I don't know if I want to be an architect. Like, I don't know if I can do this.
I still feel like quitting. I
'Cause
definitely took the wrong major, but yeah, we're gonna suck it up and deal with it.
That moment where I felt like quitting was probably right after art design, because I stayed up all night and the whole day before that and only got a little bit of sleep the night before that. So probably like 5 hours in about 2 days or something. It's whatever. And I was there, I had like my model and my drawings and everything, and I just like greeted the critics. I just said, hi, my project is about. And I just looked at my model and my drawings and I didn't know what it was about. Like, I did not remember anything. I blanked completely to the point where my own work looked alien to me. And just the fact that I had reached this stage where I was so alien to my own work made me feel like what I'm working towards is probably not worth it.
But I think all of those times or moments when I really think of quitting, I never really quit. So I think it was maybe not really thinking of quitting, but thinking of self-reflections of what I was doing.
Oh, when did I not feel like quitting is the actual question. Every day.
Constantly.
Sometime during urban, because urban design was very hard. But I kind of got a boost after that by being able to get away and go on EHP and kind of reassess my connection to the department.
I don't remember. I think it was like after my second advanced studio, and I was like, didn't know what the hell my work was about or what I was doing, and so I took a bunch of liberal arts and like a printmaking class and took some time off.
I think it was when I was in Matthew Trimble's, like my first advanced studio, and I was so out of my comfort zone. I was like, is this for me? Am I doing this right? And then I was like, maybe I should just quit. But then I did. So I guess that's a good thing.
Spring, sophomore year, when, oh my god, we had that like wire nylon project due, and our crit was the next day. But then I knew it wasn't even over because we had like some crazy drawing due for arc analysis that following Friday. So I remember I think it was like a Wednesday night, 3 in the morning, and I remember I was like borderline in tears because I was like, the worst part about it is that like after this crit is over tomorrow, I'm not even done. I still have like another drawing. And I remember at that point I was like, it's just not worth it. Like I'm so miserable and flustered. But then, you know, like studio mates were all in the same boat. We're like, no, Anna, it'll be fine. Like, it's okay. And I kind of like, you know, after I got some sleep and some food, it was fine.
That projections assignment that we just talked about, that was like the height of it for me.
I had a few points where a lot of points where I wanted to quit, but the worst one was probably mid-review Hansi better architectural design. I just couldn't handle it.
Ooh, rock bottom for me was definitely it was so bad I don't even remember her name anymore. Rochelle. And the Weather Museum. That was definitely my worst semester. Yeah, it was just I guess overlapping of senioritis and just, you know, her very intimidating teaching style. It was very stressful.
Quitting DP, and then like after that, what was the next? RD, and every semester after that, every advanced studio after that. Obviously, like we're here, so none of us ever actually gave up, and I think it's been worth it to not give up.
All the time. Every moment in architecture, there's some aspect of I want to quit, but then I don't.
Every time I did feel like quitting, I just never end up doing it because there was nothing better to do.
Still do. But here I am. I never left.
There was never really a moment where I felt like actually quitting, but I guess the closest I might have got was sophomore year when like we were kind of first in the grind of architecture. We were first pulling all-nighters. Like at first I thought it was fun, and then after a while I was like, am I going to be able to do this for another 3 years?
That's a hard question. Never.
I really love architecture.
It was never an option to. I mean, I've set myself up to be an architect at RISD since as long as I can remember, so it was never an option quitting.
To the class of 2016 in architecture of the super senior. I hope that we cross paths, because that would be amazing, and I hope that all y'all just kind of do exactly what you want to do in life. Don't feel pressured to become someone who you don't want to be, because I feel like if you kind of try and fit the mold, you end up kind of doing more damage to yourself. So I would say, be the person you want to be, always be happy, always be stoked, always be positive, always look at things in a greater light, and definitely hang out with me.
I just want to wish everyone success and happiness in their future, whether it's in architecture or not. And I hope we can make time in each other's lives to meet again and keep in touch.
All of you guys are super, super talented. All I ask is that you remember me when you guys are famous.
I hope we'll still be in touch in the future, and hopefully we'll meet each other and have collaborations in future. I think that would be quite interesting.
I love you guys. Thanks for all the support and the all-nighters.
Thank you for always being there. And you know, I get really crabby when I'm sleep deprived. So thank you for bearing with me.
If we see back this 5 years, like we did it, and it was really hard. It was frustrating. Probably we all cried.
Yeah.
In the 5 years a lot.
I think
but we did it. So I think from now on we're ready for anything.
And if you see us again in 10 years, maybe, or 15 or 30, remember that we're still our really close friends and we get to see each other every once in a while. I will love you always.
To those who are still in pursuing this architecture education or thinking of doing so, stay strong, work in studio, and really take advantage of what you have here, because I don't think you can find it anywhere else.
Never give up. Like, I think that's, like, as cheesy as that is, the whole point of all of this is to not give up, because once you do, it's like, what's the point? Like, what are you doing?
Double make sure you really want this. I advise, strong advising you not to get in here and enjoy your other life.
Oh, and do things that you really love and care.
Don't give up the fight. It's gonna be worth it at the end.
Just do what you want. Just be brave, because you don't have anything to lose.
There's a lot of self-doubt that goes with this profession, and just enjoy what you do.
Have your priorities, and don't invest like night after night after night doing your work. There's so much more to life than studio. There's so much more to life than architecture. So I would say just go out and do other things.
It gets easier, and just tough it out.
Work in studio. If you hate architecture, quit. Don't waste other people's time. Find a group of friends that continually to inspire you every day.
It's hard the first 2 years, but if you suck it out for those 2, you're not gonna regret it afterwards.
Being in architecture education is more or less like having your brain or your consciousness being blasted out into outer space and just being left there to your own facilities. It's completely stupefying and astonishing, but also makes me completely and utterly lost.
I think you have to come into terms with the responsibility you have as an inspiring architect.
Or even a designer in general.
Or a designer. You do have an impact on the world, and a very high leverage point in systemic change. So If you're afraid of that, don't take architecture. But if you're up for the challenge, it's a great way to make change.
Hi, I miss you.
We love you.
I guess I'll be watching this in 15 years, so I hope you're happy.
I think the architecture department at RISD is the most kick-ass, badass department for all the work we do and we suffer. And I don't think that's subjective. I think that's a fact. So
I love you guys. I miss you.
Not the president of the Philippines today. Not in 10 years.
Why don't you just edit this without questions?
Of course.
Yeah, I trust you to edit it properly.
Is it recording?
Yeah, it is.
Are you sure?
Yes,
I
it
just
is.
pressed it.
No, it's not.
See, we start.
Yeah. What have people been saying?
You should put the picture here if you can Photoshop it.
That's...
Who's your favorite person in architecture?
Obviously not Rasha Khazi.
Me!
wait, last thing, right? I have to say, oh god. Maybe that will be in the video.
No, you better not put that in the video. I'm gonna kill you.